So, guys, it's about 2 weeks ago that you announced your partnership, and effectively what it is, it's an instant access to credit offering through the Revolut app, powered by LendingWorks, and it's fair to say, the first of its kind. We haven't seen another partnership like this in the space. Nikolay, why don't you introduce for us, what is this partnership? What does it mean for your users?
Well, we had a lot of requests from people who want actually to borrow money from Revolut. So we thought, it's a great idea to launch a credit product quickly, and LendingWorks, was the best partner. So we approached many potential, partners, and as a result, we decided to go with LendingWorks.
Okay, and you began as a money exchange app, basically, and you've recently been launching all sorts of other products. So why don't you give us a very brief overview of what you are now, a little bit about the Revolut journey.
Well, we launched the product 1.5 years ago, July 2015. We launched it as a simple multi-currency card plus account, which allowed you to spend money when you're abroad and to send money abroad as well. Value proposition was that we always give you interbank rates. So for every 500 euros that you spend, you save on average 20 to 40 euros compared to your bank. But later we actually expanded into many more products. By the way, with this simple service, we managed to acquire 600,000 customers within 1.5 years with zero marketing spend.
550,000 the last time I checked, and that was about
now it's a bit more. It's a bit more. Yeah, and we thought it's a good idea, to effectively cross-sell additional services that our customers want, with the same value proposition, the best possible rate, the lowest cost. That's why we particularly looked at peer-to-peer platforms, because that allows to eliminate the banks and cut down costs, by 50%. So we started adding all these additional services. So we launched bill splitting, request money, current accounts, credit. We are launching business accounts very soon. A bit later, insurance, Revolut Wealth product as well. So yeah, a lot of exciting things are in the pipeline.
And Nick, why don't you give us a very brief overview of LendingWorks, what's different about you as a peer-to-peer lender, and then talk about this integration, because it is quite a deep integration rather than a simple sort of signposting deal between fintechs.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I wanted to congratulate Nikolay. I mean, what Revolut have done in 18 months is just unbelievable. To acquire 600,000 active customers in 18 months, I just think is a real achievement. Yeah, so LendingWorks has always set out to operate a B2B2C offering. So our whole mandate is to partner with other firms in order to acquire customers. So it's actually really interesting when I saw the agenda for today and the slant that AltFi were taking. I felt that it's actually really appropriate for what we're trying to achieve. We didn't actually achieve the B2B2C style offering we wanted initially, and we went through some other means to grow some scale, to acquire customers, to bring on board investors and lenders. And yeah, now in the last sort of 6 months, we have really started to accelerate in that space, which is actually what we always tried to do. In particular, we want to gain traction with partners in a very deep integration way. So what that means is we API most of the services on our platform and enable the partners to call our services via API remotely. And what that means for partners like Revolut and many other organizations in this room is that your customers don't have to leave your app in order to gain our credit. And that's a really, really important and powerful part of what we're trying to achieve, because, of course, as soon as you have to leave the app, as soon as you have to leave the website or even the branch or wherever you are in order to gain that credit, it becomes a very clunky user experience, customers drop out, and it just doesn't work as well. So we're focusing really, really hard on that B2B2C space and making the customer experience for our partners' customers as slick as possible, and therefore making it much more likely they'll use the credit.
I'm sure it's a great thing for Revolut's users that you are sort of existing behind the scenes in this partnership. But is it a good thing for LendingWorks, the business and the brand, that you're never seen in this whole process? Well, I suppose you are if I'm successful in getting a loan, but in the first instance, you're a bit more behind the scenes. What does that do for your brand?
Yeah, well, at this stage in our growth, of course, we have to focus on growing the business to get to a scale where we can, afford potentially to go direct to consumer at a later stage. I would have a view that if you're going to spend anything less than £10 million a year on TV advertising, then you're probably throwing away your money. we don't have the budgets to spend £10 million a year on TV advertising yet, and so therefore we're growing in other ways. And actually, there's countless examples throughout history of platform businesses that operate behind the scenes that actually go on to become incredibly stable, incredibly robust, and large businesses. So we have absolutely no problem with fulfilling that role.
This is sort of one of those lending as a service style partnerships, almost, except not with a big bank. It's with a millennial-facing, not just millennials, but a fintech app. Do you think, coming back to what we've already spoken about in some of the other panels, that is the future of how fintech businesses are going to scale?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely do. I think it's been mentioned on stage so many times today already, but the culture, the way that our cultures of the businesses work together, I think is by far and away one of the most important things. And it was really refreshing. I was actually mentioning to Nikolay earlier that we're working with loads of other partners right now, and there's sort of announcements will be coming in the future weeks and months. And some of them are large organizations that have been around for 100 years, and some of them are startups that have been around for 18 months. And there's positives to both of the relationships, but actually the culture within Revolut and the assertion and the proactivity and the energy that they've generated is, again, absolutely fantastic because we get stuff done really quickly. So I don't know whether that answers your question, but ultimately that's one of the big factors.
So Nikolay, I got told off the other day in the AltFi News comments section for referring to you as an app bank. You're not a bank yet, but you are launching all sorts of products, as I say. Do you think you're heading in the direction of becoming a bank, a digital-only bank, like a Monzo or some of the others we've seen?
But what is a bank? How would you define a bank?
Well, I think the reason that I was told off is because you don't yet have a banking license.
Okay, so if organization has a banking license, then it's called a bank, right? Then we're not a bank.
Do you see yourselves as a bank?
Well, I mean, the services that we provide, I think they are, much better compared to services that banks provide, right?
Because you say global money app, right? That's how you describe yourselves currently, or is it has it evolved?
We changed branding a bit. So we used to be a global money app, and now it's all about beyond banking. So if you look around, there are old-fashioned banks, and there are digital banks, and then there is Revolut beyond banking. And the idea is that like if you look at all digital banks or neobanks, they're all very local, right? So they all kind of specialize in one country. We are by definition global. We are by definition beyond banking. So we are now live in like 40 plus countries. We're serving different people in different currencies. We don't have any limitations. So that's why we're kind of not a bank.
And you do have a current account offering. Could you talk us through? What does that actually entail for your customers?
Sure. I think it's actually pretty cool. So like within 2 minutes after you download the app, you can generate yourself a unique bank account. So the account is actually held at Barclays, which gives you the stability of a big bank. But the account opening process is amazingly quick. It's just 2 minutes, and then you get your own unique account number and sort code.
And another of your recently launched products is this Amazon Prime style, that's how you put it in the marketing, subscription service, which is something that looks pretty unique in the financial services space.
Yeah, definitely. If you look, for example, at currency exchange or money transfer businesses, for example, I think the most well-known in the UK is TransferWise. They charge you 0.5% on FX. I think it's ridiculously expensive. We do it for free, right? And if you subscribe to Revolut Premium, we do it for free for unlimited amount on FX. So if you want to exchange 1 million euros or 10 million euros, it doesn't cost you 0.5%, right? It just costs you £7 a month, and you got access to unlimited FX at interbank rates. And on top of it, we give you extra services such as free insurance, premium cards, priority 24/7 customer support. Later, we'll add more services as well.
On that point that Ryan made, I would love if Tom and Nikolay and others in this space actually do come up with a new name for what they're trying to do. You're saying, are you a bank? Well, okay, Revolut don't have a banking license, but I would love it if someone came up with a term that could describe what these people are trying to do in one word.
And it's interesting to hear you talk about TransferWise. We're now seeing fintechs sort of undercutting other fintechs.
Yeah, exactly. I think business model when you just rely on a single service. If it's not lending, because in lending, I mean, there are still very very high margins. Like in transfer service or currency exchange service, I mean, it's impossible to generate like $10–20 billion revenues a year, right? So by definition, you're kind of limiting yourself to be like a small company in terms of revenues. So unless TransferWise does something else, I think they will be disrupted, right?
So let's talk a little bit about how the credit underwriting process works if you're applying for credit through this partnership. Of the 600,000 customers, Nick, how many of them currently do you think would be eligible for a LendingWorks loan? And I have to confess at this point that I've tested it out and was rejected, which was somewhat disheartening.
Yeah, that's a problem that we faced for first, I think, 2 or 3 days. So the model, the credit model wasn't, tweaked correctly. But I mean, to give you an idea,
I might get in now.
I mean, theoretically you should. But I mean, to give you an idea about numbers, right? We are kind of we are providing about 300 applications a day to LendingWorks, right, from our clients.
How many? Sorry, 300.
300 a day, yes. And that's, I mean, we didn't really push it out yet to all customer base. It's just because, I mean, we still need to kind of optimize the model to increase acceptance rates. But I think, just the beginning of it is amazing.
Yeah, so from our side, we wanted to get the partnership live. We wanted to get the tech live, and as I say, with the style of that deep integration we were talking about, obviously there was some work involved in doing that. So now all of that's live. The next point for us is building a bespoke credit model for Revolut customers. And so, of course, as soon as you go past that sort of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 applications, we can see exactly what sort of customers these are. And of course, they, by the nature of the beast, they're transient customers who often have thin files. So we're building a credit model which fits exactly that. And so, therefore, Ryan, I don't know if you've moved house regularly in the last few years, as many people do in London. Well, that's hard for lenders to deal with. So we're addressing that problem exactly.
I found that you had 4 tick boxes, which was, tenant paying rent, tenant not paying rent, homeowner with a mortgage, homeowner without a mortgage. And it's difficult if you feel that you, in fact, fit some way between the two of those things. You don't quite know what to click, which is, I don't know, maybe a bit of customer feedback on stage.
Real-time customer feedback, I like it.
First day when we launched, as I mentioned, the model wasn't tweaked correctly, and I received so many calls from very wealthy guys saying, we are rejected, what's going on?
Right, okay.
So it was a fun experience, but now, I mean, now it's much better.
And the actual underwriting process, this feels to me like one of those opportunities where it could be quite innovative, quite interesting. You might actually be able to leverage some of the data that Revolut has on its customers and use that to power your underwriting decision. Is that the case at the moment, or are you looking at that for the future?
Yeah, so I mean, at the moment, we're very much at the start of the journey, which is we've got a long way to go and lots of different areas we can look at. What we're talking about at the moment is putting some pre-screening on the Revolut side, which is very simple, very basic, and it means that we can make sure that we only show the button to the types of customers that we'd want to deal with. But actually, as Revolut services grow and hopefully they become more of the primary account holder for more and more of their customers, we cannot wait to get involved with that data and to see what else we can glean from it. So yeah, absolutely, we will push more and more into that space. In terms of the credit acceptance at the moment, we operate an automatic approval system, so we generate an automatic approval score for every customer that looks at hundreds of characteristics, and provided the customer is above a certain score, then we will...
It's very quick, is it, that decision?
Well, I mean, it's instant. So yeah, if you're automatically approved, you will immediately see that on the app, and the money will be, the process from start to finish on the Revolut app could see you getting the personal loan within about 40 seconds, and the money is instantly available to you. So we are very much thinking that this is the quickest loan application to pay out ever by any company in the world that we've seen so far, and we absolutely want to continue with that.
And it's been written that LendingWorks is not the largest consumer lender in the peer-to-peer lending space. A couple of others in this room that are older and larger. What do you think was the key to effectively, becoming the partner in this instance? It's obviously a bit of a coup for you guys, potentially transformative for the business. What do you think was the key? Perhaps you'd also like to.
Well, larger does not mean better, right?
No, indeed.
For us, the key was the speed, right? The sophistication of the team as well, and also I think also very important with a partner, the ability or the desire to do something new, right? Because if we look at some larger platforms or more established, I mean, they not necessarily have the desire to do new things quickly, right? So for us, that was the key decision.
I'm certainly not saying that the larger platforms don't care, because I'm sure they do. But the one thing I can say with certainty about LendingWorks is we really care about this relationship and other relationships they're onboarding at the moment. This is exactly what we're trying to set up. And so what that means is we have the ability, we have the resource and the intention to go above and beyond in setting up the tech integration and the credit models and whatever else is needed to make it work really, really well. We're not distracted by a whole host of different things. We have a relatively simple business. There aren't a million different variables going on. And B2B2C is exactly what we're trying to do. So I suppose that really helped.
B2B2C. Okay, I have to remember that one. Nikolay, what about the investment side? So this is the credit side. You recently launched a deal with bricklane.com. Could you tell us a little bit about how that works currently? It's not as deep an integration, but will you look more at helping users to effectively invest their money in the future?
Yeah, it's not deep integration at the moment, but we've done, for example, our first promotion of third-party products on Revolut was done with Money Farm, which is a robo-advisor, and it was hugely successful. So we targeted our 70,000 UK customers in December, high-value customers, and 3% of them ended up investing with Money Farm. So it just shows that it's a clear, great distribution channel of third-party products on our platform. But I think, going forward, we just do deep integration with wealth products because, customer experience is much slicker, conversion is much higher as well.
And at the moment, you have a robo-advisor and a property investment channel. Would you consider a peer-to-peer lender in the future?
No, it's not necessarily anymore, right? Because we've got deep integration with LendingWorks.
Right. Oh no, sorry, but I mean, so perhaps LendingWorks, but as an investment channel for your users.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. So that's what we're looking at the moment.
Right.
We really like the sort of holistic view, I suppose, of Revolut customers being able to lend to other Revolut customers, and so that's something that's a work in progress.
Because you have spoken or said in one of your sort of announcements that you will actually look to build a peer-to-peer lending network within your user base, which is something that we heard from Hargreaves Lansdown a number of years ago when they were talking about potentially doing a peer-to-peer platform of their own. That's now gone a little bit quiet. But
I believe that came out in August 2014, so yeah.
Yeah.
No, someone in the team did have this idea about, I mean, it was actually before we started integrating with you. But I mean, the reality is that to go through the whole, regulatory process and also build, scoring models, I mean, it just takes time, right? So for us, a better way, quicker way, and, more economical way is just to do, deep integration with peer-to-peer platform, right, and provide, both sides, so you can invest money and you can borrow money as well. So it's much better this way.
Okay, and coming back to the themes of some preceding panels, Nick, you spoke about looking at these sorts of partnerships in general and then being a big part of LendingWorks' future. Do these partnerships include mainstream banks, or are you only looking at fintechs or other types of businesses?
Yeah. So I suppose it's where we can add some value, and if the mainstream banks believe they have products that look similar to ours already, then I guess that they're not really going to want to work with us in that way. Where we can add value is, of course, if the product doesn't exist, or we could do a better job of it, immediately. And so I'm not going to proclaim that we can walk into NatWest and tell them that we'll deliver personal loans to their customers in any way better than they can do, because I just don't know the background behind it. But what I can say with a high degree of certainty is that we can provide services to firms like Revolut, which means that they can get to market much more quickly, they can concentrate on their A game so they don't become distracted by lots of different things, and we concentrate on our A game at the same time.
And Nikolay, we heard in the last panel about this idea that fintech was all about the unbundling of financial services, and then sort of fintech hubs, I suppose somewhat like yourselves, are beginning to bundle fintech solutions back up together again and then what you end up is these sort of Nexus-like platforms. Do you think that's what's happening? Because it also seems to me as though these digital-only banks, the offerings are all becoming very similar. They all do free money exchange, free spending overseas. They all have very good current account functionality, very good overview on your spending analytics, etc. How do you see it progressing over the next few years?
Well, interesting questions.
Sorry, yes, a number of questions.
To be honest, I don't know. I think in the short term, embedding your product into other financial services products just makes sense. I think it also depends on the product, right? I mean, you don't really. So, for example, if you look at money transfer business, right? So you probably need to integrate with just one provider or maybe two providers, right? If you look at I don't know, like trading business or brokerage business, so you probably need just one provider, right? If you look at like insurance products, then you probably need to have multiple providers to kind of to be able to give the best possible insurance to your customers. So, I don't know. I think it really depends, but I think the direction, short-term direction is definitely like offering more and more products and bundling into one platform.
Thanks, Nick. Any thoughts on that point, or?
Well, I suppose it all comes back to user experience in my point of view, and the easier that firms like Revolut make it for customers to do business, the more business they'll do, in my opinion. And actually, you can take out price in some ways as well. So price is obviously a big factor for most people in making decisions, but it's not the only factor. And if you can make it really, really easy for a customer to do business with you, then that sometimes supersedes price. So I think that that journey will continue, and it's quite difficult, for example, to get as much messaging as you would like to onto an app screen as you would a desktop computer screen. But if you can achieve that and keep the user experience really slick, then I think that will naturally answer the question.
That's just about all we've got time for, but I'm just going to check whether we've had any questions in, but I've left the tablet over there, so I'm just going to go and check that very quickly. It actually doesn't look like we have. So let's say thank you very much to Nick and Nikolay. It's been really good. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you. Thanks.